Hi, this is Lady Lex UK and this is a Dreams Gadget tutorial. We've got to the end of movers and outputs and here is our final gadget in the pink section. This is the rumbler and the picture is pretty self-explanatory. This is the gadget that you use to activate the rumbler circuits in your DS4 controller. Now I don't know if this affects move controllers. I don't know if they rumble because I don't have any, so I'm just going to be talking about the DS4. Whether this applies to move controls, I really wouldn't like to say because I don't know. Anyway, the rumbler. It's a very simple gadget. It has two motors, one in the left and one in the right of your DS4 controller, and they rumble when they're activated. This gadget has a test button on it, so you can test the rumble. The level of rumble as you set the sliders to 0 to 100, like that. I think you can see my imp sort of vibrating there. It's very difficult to demonstrate this particular gadget because obviously it's about my controller making vibration noises and you can't hear it or feel it, so you have to take my word for it that it's doing what I say it's doing. Right, so here's our rumbler. If you just plonk that down in your level and turn the level on, it'll automatically start because it's powered on. So you need a way of controlling when this actually plays. And now you would use this for allowing your player to have a bit more immersion in the game. So if there was an explosion or the player gets hit by an enemy, or there's an earthquake, or they fire a gun, you can just put a little rumble into the controller and the player feels that they're really there, or more there than if you didn't have any sort of effects whatsoever. So it makes it more of a full immersive experience than just an audio-visual one. So the best way to use the rumbler would be to use a timeline. So if you had an event going on, you would probably be using a timeline anyway, so you'd have the animation of like rocks falling down or something like that. You would just drag your rumbler onto your timeline and then you can adjust how long you want it to rumble for, like this. You can set how strong you want the rumbles to be, like this. And then activate your timeline and it will rumble for the amount of time that you set it for. And that's the easiest way to use a rumbler, and that's what I would recommend for most occasions. That's going to work really well. Now I mentioned a gun. So if you want to create a gun mechanic, it's a slightly different thing. Let's drag that rumbler back off of there and get rid of our timeline. I'm going to put in a controller sensor. Now this would be inside your first person character model, so you won't need to set it to be remote controllable because you're probably going to be possessing that model. So possessable is probably what you're going to have, but we're going to set it to remote controllable because I've not got a possessed character to show you. So what we're going to do is I'm going to put down a counter and I'm going to put down a timer. Now if I was just to take the R2 button and link it directly into our rumbler, what would happen when I turned it on is if I pressed and held down on the R2 button, it will continue to rumble. It will rumble for a very long time. Until you let go, and that's not really what we want. What we want is a sort of a pulse. We want it to play just at the beginning and then stop. So instead of directly doing it, and now I'm going to turn it off, otherwise it's going to rumble all the time. I'm going to wire my R2 button to a counter, and I'm going to route the counter to a timer, and the timer finish to the reset count, and I'm going to set my timer to 0.2 seconds. That's how long it's going to rumble for. So what will happen is I'll press the R2 button. That will fill the counter. It's a 1-0 counter. It will fill the counter. This will start the timer. then after 0.2 seconds it resets the counter. So that's going to stop this counter, and when the counter is full we're going to link that to the rumble. So what happens is when I press the button it starts the rumbler. 0.2 seconds later the rumbler stops because that is no longer at 1. It's as simple as that. So if I was to turn it on, press the R2 button, hold down the R2 button, it's no longer vibrating all the time. It only does it when I press the button. And 0.2 seconds is pretty much good for pressing of a trigger. And it gives you a sense of the rumble. There we go. So that's how you would do a gun rumble for the trigger. Whoa. Just turn that off. Another thing that you could try is to use sound mode. We'll put down a timeline and I'm going to pick a drum kit. So I've got a little heartbeat there. Let's just reduce that down to there. And we're just going to make our timeline short like that. Okay. And we're going to wire up our heartbeat using the envelope. And we'll wire that into the power of our rumbler. We'll whack up the rumbler to 100%. And then we're going to set our timeline to loop. So there's our thing. Now we don't want to hear the drum. Now if I was to change the volume of it here, it's going to affect the power sending to the rumbler. So we can't do the volume there. We have to do it actually in the timeline. So we're going to take the volume down like that so we won't hear the drum. And now we're just going to feel that heartbeat in our controller. And obviously you can increase the speed of your heartbeat like so. Now we've got a very small beat, and so the rumbler is struggling to give us a nice strong beat. So we're not really feeling that. So let's go into, let's go into it there. We'll go into piano roll view, and I'm gonna elongate these. There we go, that's better. So now I've got a stronger, much stronger heartbeat because it's rumbling for a little bit longer. And you could use that to give the player a sense of danger, so that he can know what's coming, whether it's dangerous or not. And we can change the speed in here, and then we'll change the speed. So to get it to the maximum speed you can get it, let's just stop that. You can get it going really quite fast, so you get like a vibrating effect actually on top of the vibrating effect of the rumble. So you can play about with this to affect the rumble to get really interesting effects. You can put whole rhythms in here that will play back through your controller. It's not very strong though, strangely. Not really sure why, because I've got it at 100%. And duplicating the rumbler doesn't actually make it any stronger. So it's only one rumbler at a time that will work. It doesn't matter how many rumblers you've got going at the same time. It's not going to be any stronger. That's the maximum. So there you go. So you can use a whole rhythm. So you could maybe make a piece of music and link that to your rumbler. So it will beat along with the music. Some people like that, some people not very keen, so maybe give them the option to turn that on and off when you've got a piece of music. So there we go. So there is the rumbler. So timelines, you can link them up to actual soundtracks, and you can use button presses. There's lots of ways that you can turn that rumbler off, and lots of ways that you can use that to make your game more interactive. Hope that was useful for you. If you've got any questions, please leave them in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in your dreams.